Okay, so I'm playing around with my assets file here. I have it at 8 inches by 8 inches at 100 pixels per inch. You can see it in the bottom left-hand corner. And I'm trying to figure out the things I need to tell my story. So in my second keyframe here, I have him getting scared. I've animated that, but I've realized I really don't want the audience to have to guess what he's scared about. So I want to also reveal this creature kind of coming out when he gets scared. So in this frame, he'll be scared and the creature's there. But I got to figure out what's the position of the creature, right? Because I can tilt them. I can distort them. Right now, they're just a smart object, right? I can play with their size. I can even puppet warp them. So let's see. When he's scared, do I want this above? Like the creature comes in on top of this rock? Right? Maybe so. So this is what I'll do. I'm going to trim these legs off. In order to do that, I have to rasterize it. But just in case, I'm going to do that on a duplicate. So I'll rasterize the duplicate, right-click the layer, click the rasterize, trim out these legs. So I don't need to worry about them touching the ground, right? And so now it's like this. And that's why I keep the smart object, because I'm wondering, is there a better way to do that? Maybe like this. I'm going to, on the smart object, I'm going to steal those legs, put them in their own layer. It's weird for him to have no legs. So duplicate that, Command J from the smart object. Then move those legs underneath my creature so that they're there, but making contact with the ground that's lower. Like this. That'll work. Okay, so now I merge those two together. Select them both. And then Command E is the shortcut, or layer merge layers. So you want to merge the things that are useful. And I don't need to, if I want to move his claw, for instance, I can do that as a separate layer, like a separate asset. I could cut it out and then hit Command X to cut it and put it on the clipboard, and then Command V to paste it on its own layer. And what does that allow me to do? It allows me to like rotate it and change it frame to frame. Or I could just use Puppet Warp. But Puppet Warp tends to soften things. So this will give me a little bit more flexibility. So I'm going to label this claw. And all of these that have my creature, I'm going to just make orange. Because my creature is kind of orangish. So I know how to manipulate these things. Okay, now I have the creature with the claw. So I'm going to put that in a group together. Make that group orange. Again, this is all about organization and understanding compositing. I'm going to make a duplicate of it, just like I did of my guy. And I'm going to do a similar reveal of my creature. So I'm going to have them come from off stage here and then duplicate it. But before I do that, I don't want the creature to be in full light as it comes on stage. And do I want it behind the rock? I think I want it behind the rock. So there's all the kind of thinking that goes to how you set this up. So the creature is going to reveal itself like this. Whoops, wrong layer. It's going to kind of pop up and out. But what kind of lighting should it have? Well, that's going to be in full light. And I'll get rid of the shadows on that rock. Yeah, I'll leave it, it's fine. Okay. But when I start with the creature, I want it to be in shadow. So it's going to start like this, and I'm going to double click, and instead of using stroke to do an outline around the creature, I'm going to use what's called color overlay. I'm going to paint the creature black, and then just take the opacity down. So I'll start at about 45%. Very small, just looks like part of the landscape. Right? Next, duplicate that. It will keep all those elements, and then move that in, right? Pretty creepy. So now I see an eye. So it goes from that to that. And I think I want to go darker. So I'm going to change the color overlay of the first one to about 70%. Then I'm going to change the color overlay of this one to about 60%. So really dark and shadowy. Then I'm going to duplicate that and move that in. So this time I'm moving not just a character, but a whole group, because the claw is part of it. This time I'm going to move the claw a little bit. So I'm just going to rotate it like that. And then one more time, trying to get up to here. So I need to lighten this. So it goes from 60 to more like 40. Right? And then when we get to here, I'm just going to have it tilt up and kind of pinch him, right? Just like that. And here I want the color overlay to be about 20. And that's what scares him. So it's actually pretty subtle, but it looks like this. This creature coming in. Whoops, got to make sure it's in order. So each layer is a different asset. So you turn it on, it goes like that, to that, to that, to that. And it moves the most at the end, so it feels kind of quick. Right? And then I'm going to have it recoil as he's scared, right? So I'm going to duplicate it here. And then I'm going to move it back and tilt it, kind of like I did for him, and maybe even puppet warp it. But I need to do that with just one layer. So with the body, I'm going to puppet warp, edit, puppet warp. Just remind you of all these skills. Even though so much of it is hidden, I'm just going to kind of stretch it up and out like that as it recoils, like shrinks back like insects do. And then the claw, I have to make connected to that. Whoops. Move that claw like that. Okay. So, and I don't want the claw to actually be touching his face as he's reacting. So, let's angle it a little differently. So a lot of individual layer organization here. Good. So let's set this up. And I'm going to start moving or start creating the frames that go between these two keyframes. So how do I do that? I'm going to start putting things back in the suitcase of my assets by just turning off the eyeballs. It's always a good idea to save your assets as you go. So these are all my assets. Do I need all these different components individually? No, not really. I can definitely combine these two, merge them, it's not bad to have this as a separate component just in case I ever want to like put something behind this. But yeah, the mountain in the background, I can definitely merge those together. The mist, I could change the color of the sky if I wanted, so I'll keep that as a separate. And then the background plate. Okay. And then I have this mist as well. So this is all part of the setting, so I'm going to mark all of that purple. And I'm just going to put this all into a folder together to keep it kind of nice and organized. So that's the setting, it's purple. And then the rock here, this is kind of a foreground prop. So I like to label my layers by double-clicking on the name. And I'm going to call this a rock prop. And because it's part of the setting, I'll make that purple as well. All right, and then my character, my special effects I'm going to make red, and then my character I'm going to make green. It's my hero asset, at least for now. Okay, so how do I start this? I start with this frame. That's what's called an establishing shot. So I've set up with my assets my first frame. So now, how do I save this to the stage? How do I actually put it as part of my animation reel? What I do is I go to the topmost visible layer, which is my rock prop. I hold down Option, and I say Layer, Merge Visible. Now you guys want to listen for this. You might even want to write it down, because this is a technical workflow for how, once we've set up all of our assets, all of our puppetry, all of our props, we take the photo of it and move it to the stage. So what did I do? I clicked on the topmost visible layer. I held down Option, and then I said Layer, Merge Visible. Because I held down Option while I hit Merge Visible, it gives me a combined layer on the top without losing all my individual assets. Now with that combined layer, I'm going to select it all. Select all. Shortcut is Command A. This is on the top combined layer. That's like let's pretend that Tim Burton, when he did Nightmare Before Christmas, set up the scene and then used a Polaroid, right? So when he photographed it with a Polaroid, he had to then grab the Polaroid from the camera. That's what select all is. Holding down Option and then Merge Visible is like clicking the shutter on the Polaroid camera. And then the photo comes out. Now you select it all, you grab it by hitting Command C or Edit Copy. So now we've selected it all, we've copied it. Now we're going to put it into the scrapbook, into the film, onto the stage. So I'm going to create a new file. We only have to do this once. I'm going to call this my name, assignment 3, stage, all in caps, Skeletor. To the desktop. It's going to be 800 by 800 by 100. Notice that it already populated that because I already have that copied on the clipboard. And then, how do I put it in my scrapbook, or how do I put it into the film? I say Edit Paste. Because in traditional film, you cut the film, right? Like the individual frames, you cut them, you taped them together, you paste them into the finished reel. So now we have one frame of film. I'm going to show this really simply. Now I go back to my assets file. So we're going to have an assets and a stage file, both the same size, but doing different things. And I'm going to deselect, Command D. That's like you got to clear the chamber of your Polaroid. And then I have to delete that.